welcome to the First Circuit Podcast number 13. Speaking right now is Lars, you are a casual mech warrior. For today's week, we have Mech.
Hello.
We have a biter.
Rawr.
We have Ian.
Hello.
We have Old Bob 10025 via cell phone.
Hey guys.
There we go, we can hear you loud and clear. And TRS.
Hey.
Hey, alright. So, yeah, before we begin to even go into the meat, I just want to say how proud I am to be part of this group today because we're at number 13, guys. Never thought we'd get here. Old Bob, this was your baby. I'm so glad to see that we're still doing this every week.
It's you guys, really. To tell you the truth, it's everyone in the podcast, to tell you the truth, and the people that watch it as well.
Yeah, because we've been rolling right along, and honestly, I don't know anyone else who plays this game who does this weekly. So, everyone, pat on your back for that, because I think we're rolling pretty good on this.
Hey,
And pat.
This is
Okay.
where I throw something off my desk and go, I missed.
I missed my back! So, anyway, rolling right along, because we got a few things to talk about today, which, just to give you a breakdown, we're going to be going over 3 things today. One will be the new mech, the Black Lanner, the new map, and then afterwards, it's going to just be a roundhouse discussion of how we all use our builds. So it's going to be more of a personal and more intimate stream, I think. Or it might just be a giant slugfest, who knows. So, first up is the Black Lanner. This is, I don't know, were you guys expecting this mech for the most part when it came out?
It never even crossed my mind. I know I looked at it on the list and went, no, and just skipped right over it.
Yeah, my money was on the Hellhound, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's same with me too.
I
I
kind
was
of
so
figured
hung
on a
up on
50
the-
tonner.
Completely impossible Mad Cat 3 because it doesn't come out till 3070 or whatever, that I was just like, no, this has got to be it. I'm going all in. Mad Cat 3. It turns
Yeah.
out not.
Well,
I
considering
thought
they've
it looked
already-
too derpy, but I'm happy they gave derpy.
Yeah, it looks derpy. It looks like another Osiris, but clan. But bigger.
It's
There's
a
few
55
things
ton
I'm
mech, right?
excited about.
Yeah, it's a 55-ton Omni mech.
It's a 55-ton Osiris.
Yeah, pretty much, because this is
With enough space.
it's gonna go fast. It's gonna be another Sanic gotta go fast kind of mech. It's got mask and it has a top speed of already 113.4.
Well, and it's locked into that giant XL385, which is overkill for the mech itself. It should be like max of 350, so you can have some tonnage, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the Black Lanner can be summarized pretty well by what we said earlier. Like, it's a mix of a Vulture, Viper, and Osiris from optics, and it's basically gonna be a slightly worse Viper.
But it has no jump jets or anything else, right?
No,
Yes.
it has mask, and I think a few of them have ECM.
ECM heads, but as it's an Omnimech, you can switch the head Omnipods
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, so
Oh,
any
yeah, that.
anyone can have ECM at that point.
the
Yeah.
most important feature of the ECM head is that it's in the standard pack this time instead of the reinforcement pack.
Mm-hmm.
Into
So
it.
you can actually have access to it from launch.
Yeah.
So if you buy just a standard pack and reinforcements, you can move the heads and stuff and or buy more heads for the reinforcement packs.
Yeah, and
And
if it comes out for C bills, only available head things are nothing and ECM. The one energy, which is still not really worth it, is in the hero.
And I like that
Oh,
there's an
yeah.
active probe in one of them too.
So,
Just a nice thing to have.
so the ECM is part of the head, right? And it basically doesn't require like any extra tonnage or anything.
Negative. It is mobile equipment. It
Mhm.
is just ECM
That's
slot.
not bad.
The one in the reinforcement pack with the active probe is also just a non-fixed equipment thing, so you can pull that out and get the tonnage.
Which
Yep.
is nice, yeah, because,
Yeah.
I mean, Mistlink's pilot here, I mean, we have a clan active probe and you can never remove it.
Hey, it's good for Streak 4s.
Yeah, I know. But still.
Well, this could be kind of a mean streak boat actually with that active probe built in. I mean,
Well, it's not built in. It's not grayed out, so you
or-
can pull it out.
yeah, you're right. With it coming with it.
Even
You know what I
still.
mean? With it already being on.
Yeah.
But even
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
though,
You're not going to have enough missile hard points to actually make it work.
Yeah.
Well, how many
but
missile
it's more an issue of tonnage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
maximum number of missile
yeah.
hard points you can get without the hero, well, I guess the maximum total you
4.
can get even with the hero is 4,
4. Yeah.
which isn't going to be enough.
No, it won't.
Something I've found from running the Arctic Wolf in particular is that on a couple of the builds I was running larger Streak 6 load-ups, kind of like a Kintaro, and I find that on the clan side, at least because of the cooldown and the rate of fire, it just takes so long to do the damage with that size launcher with only 4 of them. I've had a lot more luck running 6 Streak 4s over the 4 Streak 6s.
Makes me wonder if this is going to be a mech that ATMs will actually work okay with.
No, you won't have the tonnage.
Yeah, those things are
Tonnage.
pretty heavy.
Because I've been playing around with them a lot, like summoners and Shadowcats, and anywhere I can stick ATMs in the last week I've been doing just to see if I can make them work.
It'd be cool, but I think that the tonnage is just gonna be an issue for a 55 tonner with a ginormous engine cap.
Yeah.
It's
so
a-
the overall
yeah.
weight system is just the problem. The
The
most
speed is
tonnage
what-
versus well,
Sorry, go
the
ahead.
most tonnage versus space efficiency on the ATMs is the ATM 6 or the ATM 12, because
Yeah.
once you get to the 12, you're already committed to doing just that.
Yeah,
And then at the 3, it's small enough that we can actually get enough out of it to justify putting it on. Anything in between is kind of rough.
Oh, he's
because
actually
you
got
lose
ATMs
tonnage.
on one of them.
What's up, Biter?
I see that.
Well, and I was gonna say, is the mask also fixed? You can't take that out.
The mask is fixed.
Yes.
And it's fixed in the torso, so you have no way of playing around it.
It was the mask that actually made me start thinking about it as an ATM build, because playing around for the last couple of days, my biggest issue has been holding myself right at that minimum range so I can maximize damage. And mask would probably give a little bit more mobility. It's kind of what I was thinking. Let someone, let me keep at that range without the jump jets. Because, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The issue with ATMs in general is that unless you're in that really super sweet spot,
Yeah.
they're just slightly more effective streaks,
Yeah, exactly.
or they're worse LRMs, or better,
Also
depending on
true.
how you look at it. And so the bigger issue is the ATMs really work well on the fire support heavies and assault mechs, whereas they're not designed to take the beating, but they're designed to be up close to the fight. If you put them on like mediums and lights, it's kind of like, oh, that's cute, but whatever. I'm going to go kill something else that's more important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
No, I had a fair amount of success with a Pop-Tart Shadowcat with a couple of ATM 9s, but it was only like in the first days of everything. Now it just melts. It's no fun at all.
Yeah, because I was actually just gonna say that. Like, I feel like I would rather take a Shadowcat over this thing.
Oh yeah.
Because you
Every day
do
of the
get,
week.
yeah, because you do get ECM, you do get mask, and you also get jump jets, which the new mech doesn't get. You can't get jump jets with.
I think the big reason why you might not take a Shadowcat is that you can put a little bit bigger ballistics in this one, it looks like, just because of the extra size of it.
No, not really, sadly. Actually, you could probably do more bigger ballistics in a Shadowcat.
Because what
Indeed.
engine? The engine in a Shadowcat,
385 XL.
you're getting a 270 in a Shadowcat.
Yeah, so what you're
Jeez.
gaining in tonnage wise for going to 55 tons, you're losing because you're
Losing in the
upgrading the engine.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what makes the Shadowcat so good, is it has a lot of open tonnage and slots for the size of the mech it is. That's what makes it so
Yes.
flexible.
The one trade-off with the Shadowcat is that all of its hard points are fairly limited, typically.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lanner is still actually fairly limited, though there is a little bit more wiggle room. Like there's a 6 energy arm. That's something you don't have on Shadowcats.
I'd be
Yeah.
interested to see, because I've been wrong before about a mech when I don't think it's going to be very good, and it turns out to be awesome. I mean, the Viper is the one that I thought was going to be total dumpster shit, excuse my French, and people love it.
Well,
Right? So
You don't see it around that much, though. Like,
Yeah.
the-
So a lot of the
it's-
Viper pilots are diehard Viper pilots, or they're really good light pilots, and so they get really good results treating it like a light mech.
Yeah.
fair enough.
That's part of one of the issues it has, is a lot of its weapons, are almost all of them, except for some machine guns and a couple energy, are located in the arms, and it's got those frail baby weak arms. And it's like, oh no, my arm's gone. Well, I'm gonna go shut off in a corner.
I've lost my everything. So I guess just to kind of keep things going here, with this mech, what is the build we think we're going to see most on this thing? Because you know how most people buy these packs and then they find their niche. What do you think is going to be the niche when it comes to this?
Medium lasers.
Medium lasers?
And MGs. A bit like what the Viper does. You throw in a couple of MGs and lasers and go to town with those tonnage efficient weapons.
The real issue with the ballistics, though, is that they're all locked in behind the reinforcement or hero pack.
Yes, they are.
I have a feeling that what we're going to see a lot of is a bunch of 6 energy on the left arm, or just a single energy in the torso with a PPC on it, and they're going to go play like a Shadow Cat.
Well,
So it'll be a baby executioner. One thunder fist.
Now I do see that the Prime does have 2 missile hardpoints in each torso. Sorry, 1 missile hardpoint in each torso. Maybe people might, I don't know, do some quick brawling. Who knows? I don't know.
And it'll probably become an LRM boat.
Yeah, I am definitely going to put LMs on the Prime, but that's something we can touch on later.
Oh, okay.
And looking at the supposed artwork.
Oh dear.
Looking at the supposed artwork for the arms, just at the main page, it looks like what you're going to get is you're going to get the big block of energy hardpoints all like centered around the center too, would be my guess. So that arm's going to be really easy to take away. So anyone who does the 6 laser arm is going to be neutered as soon as they lose that arm, which will be probably about the 3rd or 4th shot.
Well, it's
Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. It just says Nano says mini mask vulture.
It needs like another 6 missile hard points for that to happen, but
that's the mini part.
Yeah, it's mini me.
So like if it had 2 missile hard points per torso in the Prime, so like the 2 missile left and then 2 missile on the right, I'd see maybe some moderate missile loadouts on it. Maybe people like me be crazy and stuff it full SRMs and try to go make someone eat it. But the biggest issue is going to be is because it is a 55-ton mech with such limited pod space because of the engine, you have to stay mobile, which means you can't really brawl. You have to hit and run. And I think it's going to be too big to hit and run effectively.
Also, you can't take it into scouting.
That's the biggest thing. Because, I mean, if they allowed 55 tons in scouting, this thing would be a very good potential scout mech, but they have it limited, so nope.
Yeah,
no scouting.
I don't think it would be a great brawler, which is sort of what scouting's made for. Like, you can do 1 6 energy arm, but why aren't you just doing that on a Nova?
Think it
or a Stormcrow?
It's quick enough that if you wanted to play the cap game, I know that's weird to say because no one ever caps in scouting, but if you wanted to have like a couple, like 3 piranhas in this thing, just run around and this just survives long enough to slow down the team, it might be okay. Like if you had a good group, you might be able to make something to work. But yeah, I agree. It's
just looking at the artwork, I don't think it's going to be able to take a hit at all. I think it's going to be fragile.
Fragile.
Well, that's sort of at least my big opinion on the thing, that a bit like with a linebacker, it's actually coming with a slightly smaller engine than the linebacker. You've also got 2 tons taken up with mask, 1 ton taken up with ECM. Yeah, very limited pod space, as we said. It's got very awkward hard points, etc., etc. The one thing that's got any chance of saving it is it coming in with a lot of quirks, and we're at least expecting it to come in with a fair amount of quirks.
I was just going to say
stuff like a lot of extra armor to the arms, for example. And if it has good hitboxes, which it sort of does, it has a kind of a pokey out marauder nose going on there. It might be saved by quirks, by base agility stats and all that jazz. So at least in terms of advising people whether they should get it or not, it's not an obvious must-have. It's a very odd, quirky mech that needs PGI to save it with quirks. And if they don't give it, and we don't know what quirks it's getting, then it might just be dead in the water.
Yeah.
Well, if it only gets Viper level quirks, it's not going to go anywhere because, well, let's face it, the Vipers need love too, or if they need more love probably than this thing will.
But the thing is, like with the linebacker, is that's actually a fairly common clan mech because, of course, it's got all those extra structure stuff. It's a really tanky little blob of annoyance that carries a whole bunch of SRMs.
Yeah.
And the Black Lanner can't do the mass SRM thing, but if it was really tanky and you do something dirty like throw on some heavy large lasers, heavy medium lasers, and do a big huge burn build.
Yep.
Yeah, that thing could be really annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at I'm looking at the Huntsman right now. Just trying to find something. It's 50 tons. It's not the same, but it actually has more armor, base armor, at 338 than the Black Lanner does, which is 306. So Huntsmen melt. Huntsmen do not survive against a Griffin or any splat thing that I've ever taken against them.
So that armor amount is the stock amount, right?
It is stock, you're right, but it's a little bit of an indicator, right?
Not necessarily. Like at least when people get their hands on the builds, what they're going to do is obviously max out the armor on all the bits except maybe the head, and then if there's quirks on top of that, that's not counted as in that number.
Yeah. So
yeah, no, it's a great point that it'll come down to the quirks being. If we get really good structure or armor quirks on this thing, then I think it could be viable.
it could be viable, but I think to put the kibosh in this mech is that I would say personally, at least on my end, wait until the quirks are released and then maybe debate if you want to pay money for it, even though you won't get the like early adopter rewards. But hey, if you're wanting to buy a mech to just buy a mech, I would say hold off and see.
I will say, based on the concept art, the side torso energy mounts and the right arm energy will all be cockpit height or higher.
Yep.
So that might be good for something, but again, it'll probably delegate itself back down to being a slightly larger Shadowcat ERPPC sniper.
Yeah.
Even the shoulder mount missile stuff, torso mount missile stuff is nice and high. If you wanted to do some weird ATM build, at least you don't have to worry about it getting cut off by terrain in front of you.
Yeah, I'm very curious, but all right. So I think let's go ahead and move on because time. The new map. We have a new map, guys. Keeping with the promise that they were going to release a almost like Tourmaline mini map, or I guess miniature sized map. This would be a hot map.
It looks like a hot map that was a HBG station during the first. God damn it!
The first succession was.
First succession war that was left over. Thank you.
There we go. You got
Jesus
it.
Christ.
Well, to get people keyed in case they're not aware, PGI has even announced on their site, was it Rubellite and Oasis teaser? So they've released a little video on YouTube where they're slowly flying through the map using free cam. And my first thought wasn't like, ooh, cool map. It was like, how do they make that camera go slow?
Yeah, I'm wondering if they just recorded it and just in post put it down like.
I'll tell you exactly how they did it.
How?
They used an Xbox controller.
Oh,
Seriously.
You know what? You got a good point. I gotta try that whenever I'm doing B-roll.
Bonus credits.
Beautiful.
I gotta try that now.
I got that from Bandit during last year's World Championships.
Oh my god, that's a good point.
Yep.
They use an Xbox controller?
Yep.
And
the difference is amazing.
And I have one of those sitting right next to my computer. I have got to try that later.
Mine's plugged in.
Nice.
I'll have to check it out then.
Okay, so back to the new map, I guess.
Yeah, so what do we think, guys?
General information maybe first. It's gonna be Tourmaline-like, so we're expecting about 97 degrees Celsius outside temperature.
It does have a lot
it'll
of
be a hot map, possibly. Though they said when it's Tourmaline-like, do they mean just appearance or heat?
Or in name?
Well, the map does look very hazy and caustic valley-like, so I'm hoping for a hot map.
Yeah.
And
it's just, it does also look Tourmaline-y in the sense it's kind of got a dusty look to it, and with Tourmaline as well, there's all these, wrecks all over the place. This is just more wreckage.
And lava.
Yeah. Given there's lava, it's probably going to be a hot map, or at least hot around that area. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first of the two maps they said they were going to try to get out by January.
Yes,
because I know they said they were going to do one that was kind of like Tourmaline, and then another one that was going to be like a cityscape.
I cannot wait
that ought to
for
be interesting to see how that turns out.
Okay, well that's cool. I had actually in my head combined those two maps into one. So I was waiting for a Tourmaline city map, and I was like, this is not that, guys. If this is a city, I don't know what you guys think a city is. You live in Vancouver, like, come on. But
Well, you live in Vancouver.
yeah, that might be the problem. Hey, it's pretty city up there, man.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not pretty.
Yeah, though, to go on the actual what we've seen, it's a bit hard to tell,
It is.
or at least I haven't bothered figuring out how all the different shots fit together and what the overall floor plan is or anything like that. I imagine maybe one poor sod on Reddit has, sat down and started doing cartography work. But
They may have, yeah.
at least it looks like there's a lot of build-up. There's a lot of these. It's sort of like with Crimson Strait, but it's in the center.
Yeah,
that's my guess at least.
Yeah, well, and it's also interesting to see that there's a lot of different elevation changes on it. Just like watching it spin through, and so that center bit looks elevated, but it also has platforms going off that are also elevated. So you might have like half the map high and half the map low, which would be kind of interesting to see.
It's like that. There's a 4-player custom map where there's like a ring around the outside and kind of a hill in the middle, but it's 2-layered. It's like like that.
The Rainbow Road map.
Yeah, there you go. And I really enjoy that one for custom games because you get some really cool like long range, and then all of a sudden it's a knife fight.
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm just.
If this has any of that kind of, if there's an ability for people to play 2 different styles on this map, that's all I ask.
I imagine there's quite a few styles you can do with it, i.e. if you're kind of a pokey sniper one, you go up top, and you push the other people off from the top, and you try and snipe down others. You can fight underneath inside the kind of cave, so to speak, where it's all very close quarters, kind of brawly. It's a bit like, was it Old River City and the cave?
The Old River City.
And then,
I love that cave.
And yeah, so that will be a lot of fun for those who want to push into the cave. And lastly, if you're kind of a sniper but you don't want to push up top, you could probably go around the outside or something like that. And given the composition of your teams, there'll be a whole mix of people wanting to do different things.
Okay. We were talking about potential playstyles earlier. I'm expecting to be at either like HPG. People trying to push top, take the top, or go around. Or it's going to be like Crimson Sleep. People trying to go up, and then at some point fall down, and then suddenly boarding and death.
Well, I'm hoping this one gives enough variety and enough like close density that it's not just kind of like how people in chat are saying, not just another typical NASCAR. I'm hoping this gives enough variety where people might take initiative, which is hard to say in this game sometimes, but just to try a different tactic or mix things up, which I think this one gives enough variety, at least from the screenshots and the videos at least. It's kind of hard to tell from just seeing it on a screen, but I'm hoping this gives enough variety for multiple playstyles.
At least initially, like with any new map, there's a whole sort of pouring in phase where people figure out how to play it, and people try different strats, and
that's the most
nobody
fun.
knows where the hell they are.
I mean, for me, that like those first 2 weeks of chaos is the most fun you have in a new map.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Cliff notes for anyone who's not quite familiar with some of the terminology we just said. Crimson Sleep is the pet name we have given Crimson Strait because it's very boring and very straightforward. And as far as like the NASCAR thing, that happened way back, and it kind of just stuck because people have gotten used to doing it. I have found personally that it's a lot easier to just go against the NASCAR and just get it over with because they're not expecting you to be there, and you can actually do a lot of damage to people.
And plus, to take out the lights really quickly.
We're gonna make a left turn.
For a while, I've been thinking that it's not so much the maps. The maps facilitate the NASCAR, but it's very much the player base. Because it's been drilled into people's heads, especially in Potato Queue, that it's time to move. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. Well,
and some of the most popular maps are designed to roll left.
Exactly. Like, so I don't know. I think that I'm not sure that there's a whole lot the map can do to eliminate NASCAR. Is what I'm trying to say. I think we have to eliminate. It's
definitely
NASCAR.
a player-based issue at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Maps like Canyon Network do kind of facilitate that right-hand turn around the center, and it gets into that swirl. But Other maps like which one I'm thinking of, Alpine. There's no need to NASCAR on Alpine. In fact, if you give up the high ridge in the north side of the map, you're almost definitely going to lose because unless you're super long range, they have the advantage on you for the entire time you're trying to get up there and get them out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, one thought I had with this new map, and I'll be curious to see how it plays out, is there's a lot of verticality at play. Now, the question is, it's actually quite a big jump, but how much will jump jet mechs be able to make use of it?
Oh, we're gonna find a lot of use for that.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
Yeah, because at least for the main buildings, it's actually quite a distance up.
Yeah, I
to
don't
reach
think
the top.
anything beyond the Viper or Spider could get up there. It looks
Yeah.
really high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not in a single jump.
It at
And
least
I don't
incentivizes or gives a reason to play those, because usually I can get around a lot of the maps with just one jump jet.
Yeah. Yeah, and it'd be cool to see a map that actually rewards someone specking for jump jets. What? Right? Like, what? No way. But I've had a few Griffin Pop-Tart builds with like stuff that I just hop up and use a couple of jump jets and spec for them because I couldn't figure out what the hell else to put the skills into.
Well,
Well,
like with my
that's something-
spotter Shadow Cat, I might as well
Yeah.
spec into jump jets and fly
Yeah,
around.
and if that's going to be the difference between getting up to the top and not, then we'll start seeing people specking into it just because they want to get up there easier.
Well,
I
it's
think
only
that's
one
great.
map in the pool. It's always, at least when
Yeah.
you're clicking that quick queue button, you're not looking to play this one specific map.
No.
You're looking to play it when it turns up.
But the thought, that map will create the thought in people's head, and then they can then go on and go, how would I use the increased jump capability in other maps? Right? If I have it, how would I use it? So I,
Well,
don't know, I think that
There's also
It's
an issue with
all-
that though, because like Grim Plexus, there's a lot of places you can get to with jump jets where PGI didn't physically program a place to land because they didn't think
Yeah.
someone would get up there.
Yeah.
I got called out as a cheater one day because I escaped from 3 Phoenix Hawks and a Locust in my cheetah by jumping up, and I hit a spot where I could slide in between the crystals. And the
Nice.
entire time I was there, my velocity kept increasing. When I jump jetted out of there, I had like 350 kph built up on my legs. But
yeah,
I was just small enough as a cheetah to where I could hit that sweet spot. I didn't even know that existed. I was trying to jump over it when I hit it.
It was like a
And so I got-
railgun.
Yeah, I got like slammed in there and got stuck.
Yeah, but at least my initial thoughts are that, yeah, indeed, you have to have a very heavy jump jet mech, and a lot of mechs can't do that. And whilst, yeah, you can do it in quite a few mediums and lights, you can't necessarily take ground with them. They instead just want to, jump up, poke and harass, and then disappear.
Yeah.
It's a bit
Yeah,
like if
or
you
fire off
imagine with
UAV and run.
It's a bit like if you imagine with HPG, you don't necessarily want super jump jetty mechs to take the top. You want the assaults to slowly waddle up the ramps and push top, because it's a big fight with all the big dudes wanting to take it. And depending on how accessible the top is on this map, either it's it's a safe haven for the lights and mediums with with a lot of jump jets to run around, or the big guys are just going to take it, and you got a lot of jump jets, but you're not going to win against that really shooty thing.
Nope.
And it
I mean,
looks
it'll
like
be
there's
pretty
gonna 3 or 4
unbalanced if they
ramps out
have.
there.
It'll be pretty unbalanced if they just have the light mechs can jump on top. Like I'm thinking they'll have some type of ramp going up there though.
Oh, they will.
They
just
have
look at the-
ramps.
Yeah, just looking at the front screenshot of their little YouTube tracer or teaser, there's a ramp in the right
Bottom
north
right?
corner.
Bottom right, yeah.
There's one in the bottom right, and there's one on the left side, and there's probably one on the back side behind the cube that we can't see.
And the one on the
my
left,
guess.
it looks like it's actually attached to a hillside already. So it
Yeah.
looks like you go from the hill to the ramp to
So
the
I have a
bottom.
feeling that the center on this is going to be easy to access from pretty much everywhere. Jump
Here's
to just lets
actually
you
a
get there
good
faster.
question. From the screenshots in the teaser, I am not seeing a ramp on the opposite side, basically. Like Lars said, behind that cube,
It looks like a drop off.
Yeah,
it looks like a
It-
drop-off, in my opinion. Like, maybe this map could be asymmetrical, with only one side having
Oh,
access
yeah.
to the top side. That would be
No,
interesting.
one thing
That-
you can see is underneath the left-hand side ramp, you can see that kind of pillory structure.
Mhm.
That could also be a ramp on that side. But because we don't have a good view of the center yet, we can't
hard to
really
tell.
discuss.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I'd love it if this map were like some of the old BattleTech boards that were like long and skinny, and the spawn points at both ends. Like, why does everything have to be square?
That's a good
Why
point.
can't we have weird shaped maps?
Because
that
square
don't-
maps make good shooter games.
I guess. I just think of some of my favorite maps from Brood War or from StarCraft 2 have been oddly shaped or asymmetrical. Sometimes is even better, but people have a brain fart when symmetry goes away. So,
well, that and real-time strategy games, the map can be whatever you want because the game's more fluid. Whereas this is more of a first-person shooter / simulator / thingamajig, which means the maps have to be kind of static and stationary and very repetitive.
Okay,
to make
why?
People, because most people that play first-person shooters are more concerned about trying to keep their twitch shooting, for lack of a better term, up to par. So by having a really long, thin map, you'd be promoting the use of more sniper builds, more LRMs, less actual confrontation, and the maps would probably degrade into a stalemate.
Not necessarily, Ada. My favorite mechs, both in shooter and strategy games, are ones that basically have one single lane in the middle and nothing else, and then a lot of cover along that lane for you to move up.
Well, imagine
something like that would be amazing to see.
It's just sort of at least talking about this point, if you think something like River City, when spawning, you can go to the airport or the Citadel, and likewise the opposite side can try and attack the Citadel or go up a city. There's actually a little bit of variance, even though it almost always goes down to Citadel. And when it's a fight at Citadel, it's fairly, actually a fairly thin map because everyone's pushed themselves to one side. And
fair enough.
Yeah. To that, at least to some arguments, it's sort of interesting. In MechWarrior Online, I do like having the options, at least as a light or medium pilot, to be able to flank. And if you're a bit like in the siege maps, in faction play, those are fairly linear maps. Everyone's sort of funneled down certain routes, and it does not feel great playing in a faster, more nimble mech. You just don't have the opportunities to outflank. So having that width is nice, particularly for these, smaller chassis that don't necessarily even get as much play, particularly light mechs. Otherwise, though, typically, players do enjoy familiarity, knowing what the stakes are and knowing what they're doing. Because if you're thrown into a random different map every time and it's wide and open and all over the place, a lot of people just run around like chickens with their heads cut off. People like familiarity.
Well, anyway, guys, because I think we should probably keep rolling on here. We might want to get to the meat of the podcast today. What do you guys think?
As we do that, I just want to say, why don't we push off map theory discussion and what our ideal map would be till next week, and let the audience give us a little bit of feedback on what their favorite maps are and what their favorite features and maps are.
Good point.
We can come and look at it next week.
Yeah, people on Twitch and YouTube. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. So go ahead and just fill our chat with questions, ideas, and discussion on your own time here. And we will come back to that next week, because they are announcing a city map in the future. Russ has promised us later. So yeah, so go ahead and fill it up. If you're tuning in on the after recording, put those comments down below as well.
But yeah, just to round up, at least with this teaser, there's not much we can tell other than the general look. We'll have to just wait and see how it plays out. For me, at least, I do like the look of it. It kind of feels inner-sphere-y. Just, rusted and...
that's one thing I don't think I said, is I like the look of this map. I think this is going to be fun to play with.
It's certainly something, at least it looks different, a new flavor to the pool. Or maybe you're just a different HPG, and I'm fine with a different HPG.
As annoying as HPG is that it gets played all the time, it's a pretty good design for a mech map, right? Like, there's different levels. You can get punished for a poor decision because someone has a line of sight on you from above or below. There's stuff like that can happen, and I think some of those line of sights will be limited by the debris and stuff in this one, which could make that interesting. But also, we have that verticality of a map is important.
I just think this map is such a jumble. I'm looking forward to so many confused mech pilots to abuse when it comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that's the bonus of having the testing grounds, is you can go in there and invest your time in finding it.
So, we should almost do a mass PPC Mistlinks drop and just keep hopping around the map, sniping them from odd angles.
I think when this releases, we'll bring back the Mistlinks drop, because that was hella fun last time, and I want to see it again.
Just something with a lot of jump jets that you suddenly fly up top, then you suddenly jump down below, then you suddenly fly up over here.
That will be a thing. I'm up for that. So anyway, guys,
so film that in 2 weeks.
Yes, yes. Okay, and then onward to the main bulk of our discussion is just gonna be just a roundtable discussion of, I guess, us as players use. Whenever we get a new mech in our hands, what's the first thing we do with it? So I don't know how we want to begin this here. Who wants to go ahead and take the reins on this?
Um,
I could start
Um,
out.
I think me, Biter, and Ian are probably the prolific builders of our group. I mean, we
Yeah.
all have large mech groups, and we all kind of tinker with stuff constantly.
Mhm.
I can
I'm a
probably
tinkerer,
give
but
the
I
quickest
don't come
intro.
up with anything fun.
Hey, Ian, it's up to you, man.
we'll
Ian.
start Ian then.
All right. The first thing I do if I get a new mech, I go to Sana and put the lore build on it.
Good
Okay.
answer.
Fucking what, mate?
Hello, Random Bonnie.
Hey, Bonnie.
Hey, Bonnie, how you doing?
Wow, and
Oh,
Rare Bonnie
Ian.
has appeared. What's up?
We're podcasting
There we
right
go.
now.
Oh, hello, podcast. How are you?
Yeah, we're live.
Our
Okay,
12
Ian, go on.
viewers.
Anyway, so as Ian was saying, what is the first build you go for, Ian?
Well, yeah, as I said, I'm going to Sana, basically looking for the prime build and just
Mhm.
testing out how the lore build works, so to
Yeah.
say.
Now, at least in my mind, if we're talking about build crafting and things like that, a lot of people just sort of say, I do it by feel. I always just like making X type of mech, and I think at least if I was talking about build crafting theory, I'd say that knowing yourself is the first half of the battle. Knowing how you play, how you will operate with a certain build, how you operate at different maps. It's all about having a battle plan in your mind for how you are planning to, win the game, how you're planning to deal damage, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And I think at least on that regard, a lot of people, there isn't necessarily that much talk out there in regards to
Oh my god.
controlling the engagement and introspection. Yeah, Karen.
Ah, when did this come out? The Black Lanner. Oh shit. How much have I missed?
You're probably 3 to 4 weeks behind, Bonnie.
Oh
Yeah.
damn. I've been
It
busy
got-
with
it
work
got
and
announced this
relationship
week.
stuff.
You got
But
nice.
we just talked about it earlier.
You
Have
seen
you guys
this
talked
out.
about the new map yet? I'm kind
We
of pumped
did.
for that.
We've already done that.
Got that already.
What are you on then?
How we build mechs and stuff.
Yeah,
Build
per-
crafting.
So
More
if you ask
personal.
me, Bonnie, how do you build mechs?
They build a mech, Bonnie.
Put an XL in there and go die.
Funny. I make sure it at least does 100 damage. That's all I do.
But that's not even the Bonnie challenge unless you're in a 100-tonner.
So, The way I look
I
at mech
love
builds,
being
or
like
the way I look kind of at mech builds is, I go for like weapons I know and feel that I have a good grasp of. I really enjoy like the larger ballistics in general, and then SRMs. I'm kind of warming up to streaks now that I've ran a whole bunch of streaks.
Well,
But I think a lot of that
so you
comes down
could
to
say
balancing the weapon loadout
could-
versus how much ammo.
well, what I was saying, at least my argument about knowing yourself is half the battle, and a huge amount of introspection is at least with you, Aether Mech. A big thing about your playstyle, what you really like doing, and what you excel at is you make a giant sledgehammer, and then you just charge straight into your team and hit whatever is in front of you. Whereas,
yeah, I've lost
aim
track
at
how
the
many
bigger
times
thing.
you've team killed me.
okay. Whereas for me, I always like having Swiss Army knives, something that requires way too much finesse for no real reason, and I just love messing around with those two things. With Bonnie, whilst he makes some really funny builds, he sort of lacks awareness of where he's moving. He's focusing too much on killing things, meaning he just sort of waddles up and then starts getting shot at, and he's not in a position to run away. And lastly, of course, people like Ian, they're the best assault pilots around. He has the most fun in assault.
Oh, shut up.
Thank you, Myla. I
Yeah.
take this as a compliment.
Hashtag writing that.
Well, what about me?
in.
What about me?
Bob,
You're,
what
you're
does Bob
Bob.
do?
Bob
There's
always
no way
plays,
to describe you.
No, I always say Bob, he does best if he plays mechs of the line. He sits with the group, and as soon as a mech sort of appears, he holds down both mouse buttons until either him or the other mech is, shut down.
Until they overheat.
We're dead.
Yeah, and at least, obviously, that's my whole point, is we all sort of have our own different play styles, way of thinking, and obviously, therefore, you have to tailor the mechs to how you as a player operate and how you as a player feel like you have fun.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
And I know my personal playstyle is that I've actually kind of gotten away from this recently, but I've rediscovered my old playstyle by going into just solo queue, is playing more of a support role actually. Is that my main favorite weapon is actually AMS. That's just my thing.
Same here.
Yeah, I love playing AMS support mechs, which this game, I wish they would give you more rewards, but heck, like, I still love playing AMS because whenever I bring it out, our team tends to win. If I can couple that with like ECM and just kind of hang around the big fatties and then kind of maybe just pick a kill here and there, I'm happy.
Well, and I think
But
a lot of that.
You play
I think a lot of the how.
which
Yeah, with
in
our
case
group,
when you're
that's kind
playing
of what we need.
What?
Like
Well, I'm having a
when-
bit of lag right now.
Yes, you are.
It's whenever I play solo, I usually pull out at least 500, 600 damage. Like, I've posted screenshots when I drop solo. But for some reason, when I'm in a group, I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, I gotta try hard. The front of my head's like, no, you're with friends. Fuck around as much as you can. Bird is apparently adding some things like my dad's a dumbass and whatnot.
It's called
Besides
agreeing.
that point.
Yeah, he's just agreeing with you, Bonnie. But yes,
It's moral support.
So are we grouped or just chilling out?
we're doing a podcast.
We're in a
Dang
podcast.
it.
You could
We're
still...
actually live.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, I know that. Shut up. Okay, I've had a long day.
We're doing drops in about 20 minutes from now. That's when we're
okay.
doing things. There's actually a chat down in my Discord for the themed hype chat. We'll be bringing it up at the end of the podcast.
Oh my. Can't
Don't
wait.
worry, Bonnie. We still love you.
We still love you, Bonnie.
I've gotten enough hate this afternoon, okay? So, bleh. us and our... Yeah, see, he's even laughing about it.
As what Lars was saying, though, like, you know, like, for me playing medium mechs, I love to fill in the holes and kind of be like a support mech as well. I just love actually kind of just helping out, and that's what I love actually doing, like in my mech designs.
Well, and thankfully, our group that we typically group up with most of the time is large enough with a broad enough play style to where we all kind of fill each other's gaps.
Yeah.
I'm the super aggressive push. Biter can typically either cover that or match it. And then everyone else in the group is kind of running support and striking to kind of clean up the mess that we make. And that really works out as a medium to large size group most of the time. So long as we can kind of keep, whatever we're doing together, or if we can just completely uncage the chaos and just turn it loose on somebody, then that works too a lot of the time for some reason.
Well, that was what sort of worked exactly in the last gimmick drops with the masked mislinks. Me and Aether in the very splatty street clopses.
I watched that, and I'm sad that I missed that, but I was at work.
Yeah, me and Aether are in the really tanky, sledgehammer mechs, and then everyone else are in strikers, basically. They just launch themselves in a giant blob of death.
Yeah,
I saw.
and actually, and Aether, I think you're bringing up a good point. What also you just said is that I think another role I play along with support is just being a scavenger. Is that I just pick up the pieces near the end.
Yeah, you like playing, as I was trying to say earlier, you like playing sort of poke and hit and run mechs. Even like when you play the ECM Cyclops. It's all about just sort of slightly sneaking in a couple of shots here and there.
Yep.
You don't have an assault's payload, but you make it work.
Yep. It's
Pretty much.
Like, hello, I'm just a giant 90-tonner. Don't pay any attention to me. Halfway through the game, hey, how's it going? And just...
Stop with your knockoff Snuggles impression. Nobody cares.
Oh, thanks, Bonnie. Jerk
That
face.
was ruthless.
Haha.
See, but then we have
I just wanna say,
Ian.
Lars, I really like that your kit fox is painted up like a Red Cross person.
I've actually been trying to make a video with this for the longest time, and it just fails. Because I've been meaning to do a MASH video about this.
Oh my god. No.
I am all
You have
over
got
that.
to listen. You
I
have
will
to
help.
have jump jets on that Kit Fox.
Oh, it does.
For it to work.
Yeah, of course.
Suicide is painless.
You almost want to just, for some matches, you want to get like a tag laser and then follow Aether in and just sort of pretend you're medic from TF2.
That's good.
Actually, the
I
dual
just
MS will help
blink
most of the
my
time.
tag at people
Yeah.
and annoy them with it.
And then you're holding the tag on Aether mech, just saying, "Get in there! You're overcharged."
Yes. That'd be good. Man.
After our pseudo derailment, though,
Yes.
back to like mech builds and stuff. A couple people I've actually like watched videos on that have kind of gone into how they build the mechs a bit are Molten Metal and then Snuggles a few times. So Molten Metal has a theory about how you're supposed to run your ammo with SRMs, and that is 1 ton of ammo per 4 tubes. And I find that is the appropriate kind of middle ground for the ammo you want to bring in to make it through a round without actually running out. It's kind of similar for AC weapons. I try to bring like 2.5 to 3 tons of ammo per AC, depending on the size and what it does. And then for ultras, I tend to bring 4 to 5 tons because they have that up rate of fire and you end up going through more ammo quicker.
Yep. It's hard to argue with that.
I mean, it's sort of whilst there's a lot of little nitty gritties to the numbers and how X mech compares to Y mech and all these other things. Like, there's a lot of bits and pieces you can fiddle around with. At least the biggest thing is sort of with YouTube creations and such is people always sort of say, hey, look, here's a build, a completed build, that works for me. And you don't necessarily see their experimentation phase or them figuring out what the strengths of the mech are and then trying to, take advantage of that. And particularly as well, as at least with every player, there's a matter of their own preferred playstyle, the type of things they're going to try and do. So for me, at least, I said I like the Swiss Army knife style. I always throw a narc into every single mech that has a missile hardpoint just to see how it plays with narc.
It's because you're narcissistic.
Yeah. Yeah, but Biter, but that's
in your back pocket, didn't you, Bonnie? I like that.
Yep,
it's like
been saving that for a while.
Like a blade.
Totally.
But yeah, Biter, but that's actually a very good point of what you brought up is that, for example, like anything I post, or I'm sure that Bob posts online and Aether and TRS, I mean, anyone here who posts a build video, I never really say that this is the end-all be-all. Like, I always expect someone out there to say, hey, it's a very fun build, but I'm gonna modify it for my own playstyle. So my video content, I never expect anyone to say it has to be this because this is mine. I for me, it's always hey, I built it. Here it is. If you liked it and you can modify it, then by all means. It's like more like, hey, if you're it's a good starting point. If you're a new player,
this design.
Yeah, like this works. Now go ahead and customize it. Because actually, for example, I mean, my builds have been modified because I've been hanging out with you guys a lot, especially when it comes to armor placement.
Fighter, we're winning, Fighter.
Yeah.
Do not step off of the backup weapons on your LRM boats. Stand firm, Lars.
No. He's got a backup laser on a Splat Lynx. You don't need a backup laser on something with the SRM.
Yeah, but like,
better back the fuck up with them backup lasers.
Yeah, but I'm just saying though, because I'm no longer running like 10 to 12 back armor. I'm running now like 6 to 7 now. Oh no.
8 is my magic number.
Yeah. No, I would say as well, at least
something.
Yeah, for me personally, at least, I sort of have a good feel of the game, or at least I usually feel like that, and I spend a lot of time helping people with builds or suggesting things for builds, whether it's asked or not. But you always have to be a little careful with build crafting, I find, just because it is so personal. How each people go around their mechs, even though what you suggest makes a lot of sense, it's sort of like, just that arm, it's going to blow up a lot easier. Take the ammo out of the arm. And people, can be very resistant to doing that. It's like, no, I'm going to blow up if you take out my arm. Thank you very much. It's like, why? No, there's space in the legs.
That's the main reason why I came to...
why, though?
Yeah. But yeah, the whole customized aspect of building mechs is the main reason why I moved over to this game from World of Tanks. World of Tanks, you can do a bunch of derpy, stupid stuff, but you're really limited to what tank you're playing, what tier the tank is, and how you have to try to at least be effective with it. Whereas in this game, you can do some really stupid shit, and you almost don't get punished too much unless you just really pull the team down.
Sorry, guys, typing.
By the way, Sunday I'm gonna try to get OBS working again on Windows 10, so I can start recording on PC again, and maybe even do some streams of MechWarrior with you guys.
You should.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
But anyway, guys, was there anything else you wanted to add, or also kind of like you guys in the chat? I think this stream is gonna probably continue on into next week's stream. So,
Yeah.
for those of you who are watching, or for those of you who are going to be watching in the future when this stream is done within the next few days, put in your comments of what build, build ideas you do, the kind of just the groundwork of what you follow. Because
questions.
Yeah,
I was just going to say the original thing that got this topic rolling in our Discord was that everybody has their own little rules that they attach to their builds when they do their own build, and we're interested in what your guys' rules are. And we've kind of got a taste of all of our rules, the 8 armor and a ton of ammo with the 4 tubes. I tend to go a ton and a half per launcher if it's
a 100
launcher.
A 100-ton assault mech with 1 heavy machine gun, nothing but armor.
No, my
and,
biggest
30
Well, a message that's pinned in Lars's chat is when I did the quote-unquote Lars build on the Atlas, which was when I took the Atlas, I stripped all the I stripped like all the equipment. I then put was it like 2 AC2s and then filled up every slot with AC2 ammo.
Yeah, it was ridiculous because that was also another fault of mine, is that I would put way too much ammo in my builds, and I've begun to skimp down on that.
You'd run way more ammo than you needed for the heat sinks you had to keep the weapon cold. And it's like, oh, you're shutting down before you can use half your ammo.
But I wanted to make sure. I wasn't too sure if I would have enough.
And this is
that comes down to like play style, the map, how you're
build
using
style,
how good your aim is.
Well, it's like build style actually, in the sense that I think Lars says, okay, what engines have I got available? He throws in an engine that's about the right size. He then throws in weapons and says, okay, that seems about the right weapons. I have like 6-7 tons available. Well, I've got all ammo dependent weapons. I guess I'll just throw in 8 tons of ammo.
Time for padding.
And then he shows the build, and I'm like, Lars, you stripped a lot of armor off the arms. I think you could survive a lot longer with those shields than with the extra ton of ammo in there.
Can I cut in real quick?
Yeah.
Lars, what do you mean by the stream will be gone in a couple days? You do realize that you can set up a playlist and just put all the videos as unlisted and just have all of the First Circuit.
Did I say it was gonna be gone?
One playlist.
I don't think you did.
Yeah, you did. You said in a couple of days when this podcast is gone.
If I did, I meant to say when this podcast is done, because it's always on a playlist. So
yeah.
God, Lars.
We're gonna go back in time and look at his chat and find
back to the footage.
The biggest rule though is I have to have fun with the build, like no matter what it is. I don't care if I have 1 machine gun or 16 machine guns or just whatever. As amount of fun, as much fun as I can have, the better off I am.
Yeah. I
think
I tend to go by feel. Like Brio made that comment, and it's like that's me. Like I get in there and I'm like, God, geez, I feel like I'm gonna need a little bit more ammo. So then I start finding a half ton here somewhere or a full ton, and it's just go in, play a couple games, make an adjustment, see if that felt better. If that doesn't feel better, take a look at it again. Maybe you got to start looking at backup weapons or your main weapon or stuff like that. So I tend not to bring science into my mech builds, and then someone looks at it and goes, "What the hell are you doing?" Poor Biter. I'm sure he's been confused.
You mean Biter and Ian?
Yeah, well, that's okay. It's fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have people.
Well, and it also
there's
depends on your
missile slots
personality.
I have tried it with LRMs.
Usually,
if it has missile slots, I have tried it. Period.
Yeah, usually for me, I go by the philosophy of sort of following behind a battle plan, i.e. when I'm making a build, I'm like, I'm going to try and do this during a match. So, I'm going to take this mech and I'm going to try and flank the enemy and, hit them at long range with lasers, skirmish with them basically. Or, hey, this mech's a big brawler, I'm going to maximize survival, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Like I think of my winning conditions, what I could maximize towards it, what the chassis is effective towards, and I build towards that. And that's usually at least how I usually try and prod and poke people about their builds. As I say, okay, the strengths of this mech are typically X, Y, and Z. And therefore, you could usually play this kind of style pretty well in the mech. And that is usually at least how I go about my builds. It's obviously there's a lot of different builds, a lot of different styles out there. But obviously, you can always point to something like, the difference between a Night Star and a Banshee, and I can then immediately say stuff like, oh yeah, the Banshee's got high mounts, it's got a huge engine cap. Some of the advantages can be you go really fast and poke and snipe people.
Okay. Also, I got paused because of comments. I love Wolfgang saying Biter equals living computer program for MechWarrior Online.
Well, he's not necessarily wrong. Biter, how many hours do you have playtime?
2K or so.
Oh, it's Arc.
Probably got more than
I
that.
keep forgetting that
3K.
Wolfgang is Arc. That's right. Forgot
Yeah,
that.
3K about now.
Jesus.
Yeah, but that's one thing everyone that plays the game needs to understand when they're building mechs is that you set the general rules up for how you load it up stock without any of the skill tree system, without any tinkering. Get generic rules for loading up, like how you want to load your weapons, how you want to load your heat sinks, and that kind of thing. And then just tinker with it as you go.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I think the skill tree is probably the best thing that PGI's ever released, is that it lets you tweak what you want your mech to do per mech better.
Mhm.
It also lets you like invest fully in things that you believe in.
I wish I could
Snuggles-
invest more in Narc.
No kidding.
But like I know Snuggles says he always maxes out the same things on all his mechs except for like firepower or some operations and that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of solid basis to that because you're making the chassis itself better, not necessarily the weapons. And by
Which
holding
gives you
back
more
on
time to do damage with your weapons.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, this
but
stupid
there's also
colorful
another
board.
part to that though. By leaving weapons to be the last thing that you actually skill into with the skill tree, you don't feel like you've screwed up halfway through when you have to reskill it to change weapons over. If you've played it a bunch before you try to invest in the skill tree, at least on the weapon side, you know how it feels before you end up investing into the weapons. Because I know a lot of the upgrades on it, it's like I look at some of my weapon trees, I'm like, I really don't need any of these points, and I purge the 20 or so points out of it for something else.
Ooh.
Well, that's no other podcast. The
Damn
skill
it.
tree system.
Yeah, and also
Well, it comes down to kind of like the mech build thing, though. I mean, you want to have a build that you feel comfortable with piloting before you start tinkering with it. So it kind of comes down to, you need to invest across the entirety of the mech, including the skill tree.
I mean,
also,
a simple
go ahead.
concept that a lot of people can get behind, and I mentioned this before in last year's chat recently, was just simply aggro, i.e. how many weapons and what kind of weapons you have on a mech changes how people perceive you. If you're constantly plinking people with an AC2, you can make them duck their heads, but they also might just, it depends on circumstances, but also they can just sort of laugh at you and go, ha, I've got a big alpha. And, they might easily and quickly start winning that trade. So usually at least there's different ways people respond to being lasered, to being missile, to being ballistic. And obviously, if you've got a huge amount of weapons like my UAC 2 Annihilator, I could just make people instantly start ducking for cover, and I can melt faces of anyone who stands in my way.
It's all about that screen shake.
Another good thing that people can mark you on is the fact if you go into a game in a Nova Cat armed with 6 knocks, 1 small laser, and 1 tag. I mean, that's the best build in the game. You can't diss that build.
Yeah, but talking about what we did earlier, like with Larsh's Cyclops, it's actually it's got very low taunt basically because at range all it's got is 2 LBX-10.
Sorry, it's only got 1 LBX-10 and 2 SRM-6s.
Yeah,
that's all it has.
With
of course just
Dark,
AMS and
so I'm
ECM.
clearly better.
But I am running a ton of ammo in this damn thing. I'm looking at it now. I'm like, that's a lot of ammo.
Yeah, so his firepower is so underwhelming. A lot of people just forget he's there, and he just keeps clinking away at him. He has very low taunt because people next to him are actually a lot scarier than this 90-tonner that's slowly doing damage over time.
What's happening is he's coming in as the vulture after the other bigger volume threats have been dealt with, and everyone's armor's open. He's just kind of batting cleanup.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that I'm bringing ECM. Wait, sorry. So I'm bringing ECM, but I'm also using my teammates as my other ECM.
Yeah, you use your teammates ECM. You also slowly push them on the side, and there's sort of you'll come up on a hunchy, shoot him with an alpha, and he's like, "Oh God, it's a 90-tonner," and he runs.
That's why I love playing this thing because it's just so dumb. Okay, also,
I had a friend who used his DDC Atlas very much the same way. And I mean, he would absolutely be the first guy in, but if it came down to a I'm not sure what's going on situation, he'd be the first guy to stop and just use his seismic and wait to surprise somebody.
the best
All right.
thing. All right. Also, real quick, I have to go to the comments. Okay, Father Bill, thank you for actually tuning in. For those of you who don't know, Father Bill is another Twitch streamer. I'm very glad to have you follow us actually today and join in the comments. And two, he
Should
has
come on the show.
He should come on the show because actually, I think
if I can send you a link too, by the way.
yeah, so Father Bill, if you ever want to hop on the podcast, we go live every Friday, and it's just other YouTubers. We try to get together and get some sort of commentary on the game every single week. This is our 13th. We've done very good so far. But also, Father Bill has
and plus Twitch streamers as well.
yes, and but Father Bill has a total of 3,976 hours according to Steam. Wow.
Fighter, you have found your equal.
Yeah, my best one at least on Steam.
Amount of the hours I have in Team Fortress 2, a dying game.
It's still a good game. They still have updates. But
You don't even play it, Lars, so I don't know what you're
hey, Bonnie. I used to play that a bunch before I played this, so don't even start with me on that. Anyway, off topic. So I think we should probably wrap things up pretty soon, guys. Is there anything else you had?
Not really.
I have lots of
Nothing?
mechs. Let me go through every single one.
No, Biter, no. That's for next time, next week. Okay, so with that,
So for
yes,
the guys watching and commenting in chat and leaving messages after the fact, if you have any questions about theories about specific weapon systems or that kind of stuff, or like how many heat sinks you should try to bring with so many of these weapons and that kind of stuff, we can't give you the right answer, but we can give you the answers that work for us. Go ahead and leave those questions, and we'll try to address what we can and kind of cover the largest base possible to try to get as much knowledge out there as possible.
Yes,
It's usually just each mech, each time, you figure out the loadout, and then you can figure out engine plus heat sinks.
yes, and this stream will be on my YouTube channel as a re-upload, because I do it to both YouTube and Twitch. So if you are watching now and you don't have any ideas or questions at the moment, pop on back within like a day or two, and then just put comments in. We will be going over these for next week, because we want to try to keep this as a continuing thing for the next week's. Yeah. Okay. All right. So before we really wrap things up, we are going to be doing kind of like what we did last week. We are doing theme drops. So for those of you who want to tune in, we will be taking a quick, I want to say maybe 15-minute break just to kind of get a drink, use the restroom, all that good stuff. But I will be going live again, and we're going to be doing a two-parter theme drop. The first part is going to be just all Gauss. Everyone in the drops will be bringing Gauss with maybe some backup weapons, but the main focus will be that all range, heavy, regular light Gauss. Yes, Bonnie. Okay. I see
Armorless Locust with one Gauss rifle and half a ton of ammo.
that is that's completely fine. And then afterwards,
That sounds like.
after we do the goose drops, we are going to be doing LB2 drops. This might be more fun because I'm pretty sure I'm going to fall asleep during the Gauss part of it, but I cannot wait for everyone to bring their LB2 spams in whatever you're bringing. So that will be in roughly, I want to say, a half an hour from now, just so we can kind of get things ready and rusted. So please tune in and please stand by. So again, signing off. This has been Lars, your casual mech warrior. If you want to stay tuned to anyone, in the stream here, we all have YouTube channels and Twitch channels and social media to catch up on. Don't know if you want to go over those or not, but if not, what do you guys think?